I think I'm saying that we struggle all our lives to answer it. That it's the struggle that is important. That's what helps us to define our place in the universe.
This is Beverly, Dr. Beverly, Dr. Beverly Crusher. Honest.
Forceful.
Trusting.
Brilliant.
Strong.
And adventurous.
And this is Crusher Convo.
Hello, guys, and welcome to Crusher Convo, where we are crushing the conversation one episode at a time. And here we are, Jay and I are wrapping up season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy. We got some great episodes, great moments to discuss. How are you doing, Jay?
I am good. I'm glad that this week is over, coming to an end.
Me too. Me
Yes.
too.
Yes.
In the green room, Jay and I were venting about our work week, but I think we got it all out. Now we're ready to talk Star Trek, right?
Absolutely.
So now, of course, today is a special day of not just, us finishing Prodigy, but I did want to mention that I have been marked safe from the Bell Ride so far, as this is the date that is it Gabriel Bell? Was when Cisco and Bashir and Dax all just zoomed over to the 2024. And yeah, so far we are A-okay. I did steal this from a friend of mine, so please go hit up Danny over on Twitter and Instagram at comments and underscore, or her YouTube channel, which is Comics and Everything.
Love it.
Love Danny. She was my guest when I did Sub Rosa, and
Nice.
we had a very lovely chat. But she is a nerd of all things, so I absolutely adore her. And I saw her post that, and I was like, I'm going to steal it and give her a shout out. So, and she just had like major surgery last week, so she's kind of down for the count at the moment. So I hope you're feeling better, Danny, and we miss you over at the YouTube, community. But yeah, so I have to kind of put this together real fast because it's been a really long week with work. So hopefully I can still remember all of this. Were you able to watch any of it this time, Jay? I know you've been struggling.
No. So I've like last week, I've just been rereading the synopsis. So just to clarify for anyone out there, I have seen them. I have watched them. Absolutely have watched them. Just
the rewatch.
Canada's deal with airing Prodigy, we got shafted. So that sucks. But there's always a workaround, and that's all I'll say on that. But but we did watch it, and
everyone knows those workarounds. It's fine.
Yeah. So hopefully if there's a season 3, hopefully there's a bit of a better deal. I think you've heard me say this before. I don't understand how you film 2 Star Trek. Now it's going to be 3 because of Academy, right? You film these series like an hour from my house, and there's Star Trek Prodigy isn't accessible.
You would think there's some kind of deal that you guys would get. We're going to use your landscape, and you guys get to watch free Star Trek. I don't know.
Put it on Netflix. If that's what everybody else thought, that's what should do. CTV Sci-Fi has the streaming or the rights for it.
Okay.
But I mean, how do I access that? I don't even know.
It's a struggle.
I don't even know. I have 9 billion streaming services, and I don't know.
As do we.
Like how many more subscriptions and things do I need to pay for to watch something? So
I mean, the only reason why I have Paramount Plus is because of Star Trek and the fact that I get a Beverly Crusher icon. So that's really the only reason why I have it. It's $15 worth the money. And Netflix I already got for free, so that's cool. I already had Hulu, so Disney just kind of took over, and I was like, all right. And that's it. I had to cut off everything. So I was like, I can't do anymore.
At some point, you gotta draw the line somewhere.
You gotta draw the line a little bit, yeah. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So episode 16 was Ascension 2.
Fall back!
Commander! Help me!
Ensign!
Commander! Sir?
Janeway to Tysus. What's happening down there?
So action packed as usual, because this is part 2 from the last, we were doing episode 15, so it was part 1, and it was still going. Cynthia attacks everyone. Wesley gives her a false future. As we could see here, Tysus gets old, which reminds me, I put parentheses Pulaski, because everyone knows she had gotten old in Unnatural Selection in season 2. So yeah, lots of stuff going on. I think I don't know about you, but when the countdown of, it wasn't a bomb, but the countdown was going, it reminded me of like Mario Kart when you're getting ready to go and it's going. That's what it sounded like.
And then you want to wait till it's between the yellow and the green light so that you can get the little boost at the
Go, that boost. Yeah. So I was like, oh, go. Yeah. But the one thing that I noticed, especially in this clip, Tysus has this thing of protecting the ensigns, the cadets, right? He was very upset with, losing Majel when he was on the away team. He was upset about losing Middleton. Like, he is very passionate about protecting these kids.
I will say that is a character that absolutely has grown on me. He was a bit of a dick, I will say. And, I feel like by the end of this season, he's becoming one of my favorite characters, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's earned a lot of respect for sure. They've just shown him in the one light, and now you're seeing that there's more to him than just having a lot of attitude and stuff. He seemed very almost, I think, protective maybe of Janeway, right? And kind of trying to limit some access and stuff, right? And he just kind of rubbed everybody the wrong way. And then, seeing this scene, I think, I thought that was it. I thought we were losing him there.
So did I. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I'm starting to like this guy. Don't get rid of him now.
I was like, get rid of the counselor, because the counselor really did not care for. I'll talk more about him later, because there was some scenes where I was like,
Star Trek likes to make you like these characters kind of at the last second, and then kill them off. Rip Shaw.
Yes. R.I.P. Shaw, but he will come back. I have faith. I do think, though, that was interesting how Wesley, being captured and everything, he was showing. He gave her a glimpse of the future, and it was not even the right one, right? Like, he was toying with her, even though he was being tortured and stuff like that. I was like, Wesley, just like your mother, even in the horrible times, he's still like, I'm going to still play some sarcastic jokes on you. I do want to talk a little bit more, though, with this case, because everything was decaying and stuff. Zero. Zero knew they were going to lose their body. Zero knew that it was just inevitable. So they thought, might as well go out in a blaze of glory and try to save everybody. I didn't want to have them lose their body so soon.
Yeah.
I felt like it happened pretty quickly. I thought maybe they should have lost it closer to the end, because I really liked Zero's body. I thought it was pretty cool. But and then it was like blink and there it is. They were losing their body so quickly, because it was just 3 episodes ago that they got it. So
yeah, and I think we said that last week too. I think how fast, how fast
it was the triple episode.
Yeah, how fast this is going on. But also just thinking about how, do we know Zero's age?
I know.
Like, I think
And
they're probably older than the other kids, but not really like mature wise, but age wise, probably. I don't know.
yeah, I
But
have
like
no
this,
idea.
they make this body for themselves because they want to live that more corporeal life, and it's kind of what they've wanted always, right? But
Mhm.
to even though that the body was failing, to just how noble of a sacrifice it is to give that all up to just save everybody, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it was kind of like it was cutting it close, right? And even Zero had reached out to Jankum and was like, "I'm going to need that body sooner than expected." He's like, "What? Huh? What?" Poor Jankum. He was kind of all over the place because they needed him to do this and this, and now all of a sudden he has to create a body for Zero. So this was definitely a good, like, action-packed episode to finish off that two-parter to kind of continue the rest of the story.
Yeah.
But there was just a lot happening. And I remember telling you, I think it was last week, that that weapon or whatever that Essentia made reminded me of the Shrike because of how pointy the ends were.
Yeah.
And so we see more of that. And is it a ship? I'm not really sure how that works, I guess. But I I did like how when Dal joins the Nova Squadron, so Majel and her friends, because one of them got hurt, they needed another pilot. She's like, Dal can do it. Let's go. I had this Independence Day moment with Majel where, because they pulled that thing out of Voyager that Zero was able to, take off, and it was starting to follow Majel. And so she's aiming towards the thing, and then she goes up, and then it goes and it destroys this. So I was like,
Oh yeah, with the shield, the flames go up, and yeah.
I was like, that's exactly it. I was like, but she survived. Unfortunately, the gentleman in Independence Day did not,
Right.
but it was a sacrifice. But yeah, I I think that whole action sequence was good. There was a lot going on. Again, Star Wars, X-Wings, like Death Star, like all of it. It was just one of those things where I'm just like, okay, this is cool. But it's nice to see those smaller ships, or even just what Wesley, he was Nova Squadron, right? So I mean, it's nice to see that other side instead of just shuttles, roundabouts and ships, like regular ships, like class starships. So it's just kind of,
yeah, these are more like fighter, almost like fighter jet style starfighters, right?
What did you think about the Boothby Supernova?
Love the name. I
was like, did he do it? I
don't know. He got a celestial body. They're just constantly naming stuff after Boothby, which I think is a nice little tribute.
That's fine.
He's a great character. So.
That's fine. I like it. But like I said, a lot of action, lot of stuff going on. And then, of course, as we get into the next episode, it starts making a little bit more sense about what was happening, especially with Wesley's capture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything that stuck out in this second part that you were like, oh, I liked that?
I just again, that scene that we watched kind of leading into this discussion was almost traumatizing because
I saw your face while you were watching it. You're like,
yeah, I'm like, oh god, you're making me relive of all the scenes. You're gonna make me watch this one again. Yeah, it was a great scene, and it reminded me of something specific from Discovery. You haven't seen Discovery yet, right?
I have not, but I'm
okay.
Totally fine with spoilers. It's okay.
Well, I won't spoil, but there's a certain Lady Admiral that has a scene kind of similar to this that reminds me of this, and so I thought he was done. He was gone. He was going to save this ensign, and that was it. So, but yeah, no, it was another good episode. You can start feel because we're in the final act of the season. You can feel the pacing start to quicken a bit, and the stakes.
Yeah.
Especially here with this episode now, and seeing these people aging and stuff, right?
Well, because we didn't know really what Asensia was doing. We didn't even know
Well,
what was going on.
I'm gonna say it again. Neither did she. So, like, she was so far over her head.
I can't wait till we get to the last episode here.
Right? Like, I think I think maybe it's the next episode I was watching it, and I was DMing you at the same time, and I was like, like she doesn't even know what she's talking about. Like she just does. It's a bunch of. She's getting into the technobabble, but doesn't understand.
Has no idea what the technobabble means. Yeah.
Every other Trek character, even though the audience is like whatever, the Trek character knows what they're talking about. Where she's just like, blah, blah,
right.
blah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But that was the point. That's the point.
That was the point
of her. Is
she was so into her vengeance.
Yeah, she's blinded
and
by
wanting
it.
to take over. She was blinded by it.
Yeah.
So, well, that go ahead and bring us up to the next episode, which was Brink.
Traumatize me again. What's happening?
I guess we'll find out.
Wait, where are the others?
Others?
The one with the purple dangle, the little one who argues, and that the Vulcan.
They went to save Eltheron.
What? No. This was not part of the stratagem.
I split the crew. It was the only way to save you and Eltheron.
No! From the very beginning, I've been telling you, you have to stay together.
We thought you meant team spirit. Unified in our purpose.
No, I meant never separate.
I wasn't going to let my father die. You said Solum needs him.
Iltheron would have been safe if you'd sent the protostar through the wormhole. He would have led the overthrow of Asensia. But now, I have no idea. We're on the wrong path. The future is uncertain. I am lost.
I made the wrong choice.
How are you doing?
I've got, you know what? I have to say, Will Wheaton did some great acting in that scene.
He did. Yeah.
That part when he's like, I have no idea, and his voice cracks even. Like
yeah.
You can hear the almost panic in his voice. It was
he's
really
panicking.
well done.
Yeah. Or even the confusion in the beginning where he's like the purple dingle dangle thing. Like he's just like, where is everybody? Like you could start to see him.
You know what's funny too is like I'm listening when he's explaining like I mean like never separate, like actually stick together, and I'm just thinking I'm like Wes, man, if they didn't understand that's on you. You weren't clear. Right? But also Zero's new suit looks fantastic.
Oh think
I love the
fantastic.
The yeah.
And and the fact that Zero can now feel right. Has the senses, so that was interesting. Again, it's not that I don't hate the suit. It brings back to the old look, but upgraded. That's awesome. Just wish we had the body just a little bit longer.
Absolutely. I just think it's certainly an improvement over the
but it is
OG suit.
Jacob knows what he's doing. Now, of course, the beginning of this episode does explain that the moment Wesley had blown up that planet when he sent everybody off to go get Chakotay, he lands in Solum and he's trying to tell Asensia, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Of course, he gets captured and she uses his mind traveling power to create weapons. Okay, so he's being tortured for months, I think it had said. And that's where, of course, Gwen had to make the decision of like, okay, we're going to go to Solum. We're going to figure this out. I'm going to split the team. This, I believe it was this episode where Gwen had gone to that meeting with Janeway and her superior, her senior officers. And the counselor was all like, who invited the kid to the adult table? And she's like, the Admiral did. It's like, sit down, counselor. I really don't like you.
Yeah.
He's annoying, man. I'm just saying. I don't.
Yeah, he was even worse than, what's the commander's name again? Why am I drawing a blank? Titus?
Oh, Tysus?
Tysus, yeah.
Yeah.
He's even
don't
worse.
get it. I don't get it. But
Mhm.
of
But I
course
like this this is the episode where we find out like everything that's kind of happened and all the crap Wesley's been through was all part of the plan though.
all part of
Right?
the plan, which is
This
what they found out just prior to this, because they went
yeah.
and saved him, and he was like, "Oh, you guys got here earlier than I expected,"
Yeah, because
That's why he started drawing out his equations. Like his
right.
mind was he's like, I don't understand this. So yeah. They did do something. I'm calling it a cloak bubble. So when all the kids arrived at Solomon and they had to hide, and they're all in
Oh
this bubble and
yeah. I
everything,
love
and it
that.
was like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is going on? But they're all like trying to move around. And then that's when they meet good Essentia, who's like, I hate my bad self. We got to do something. I don't want to become this chick, right? Here's the interesting part. When you're kind of looking at it in that direction, this good Essentia is like, oh my gosh, this is my future. Like, they had to save her just as much as they had to save Solom.
Yes.
Because that was her path. And she's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that I don't end up like this crazy person.
Yeah, it was a battle for Solemn's like survival, but Essentia's soul, right?
Right. Exactly.
So here's my question, and I'm gonna maybe break both our brains here because it's another paradox issue. But isn't the moment that she decides that she's not going to become that person, doesn't that change the future?
I think it depends on
it always depends.
I know. I think it depends on what broke her to make that decision. So she hadn't gone through that yet.
Yeah,
right.
but now she has, right? She's seen, but I guess it becomes a chicken and an egg thing too, right? Like if she hadn't seen herself like that, she never would. So then it can't cease to. I'm already confused. Let's move on.
You're confusing yourself. It's fine. It's fine. But I think it's also because so typically what happens is, everything we go through shapes us into who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But she hasn't actually had gone through those horrible things yet to shape her into this bad Essentia. So as for now, she's like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I don't want to become this bad person. It's because she hasn't been through those traumas yet. Right.
So maybe once she's been through those things, now who she is now will actually fight that and prevail, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. But I think those bad traumas that she went through was because Solom was destroyed and Solom broke, collapsed and things like that. And so if they actually stopped that, then none of those bad things were going to happen to Essentia. So
my head hurts.
You said, I'm sorry. But as you said, it was not only a battle to save Solom, it was to also save her soul through the process. And even Iltheron, because he wasn't a nice guy, right?
No.
But he was this different character because he hadn't gone through all those traumas yet. And so he's going through a different path, which is where those paradoxes kind of fit in. But because then Gwen goes and splits the team, that's what's interesting is that now they could have gone down those dark paths because she made the wrong choice. And it's funny because, Dal kept doubting himself about being a captain, but he was like, I don't think we should split. And she's like, no. We have to do it this way. But because he saw that spoiler of his future, he thought, oh, well, maybe she's right, which is why Wesley was like, don't spoil yourself because it's going to have you make the wrong decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So it literally it was a whole circle of chaos of them because they saw too much, they knew too much, and they were making the wrong choices because they thought that that's how it was going to go.
I also still personally think that being the captain is still something in Dal's future. I think think what he's doing is going through some important lessons, some lesson learning, I guess. To get him.
He wanted that fast track.
Ready for it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He wanted that fast track. He wanted to just be captain without having to go. Yeah.
He's the typical
the hurdles.
Millennial Gen Z, just instant.
Go do it.
I want it now. Yeah.
So
go fast.
Go fast. There we go. That's where it came from. But of course, when they rescued Wesley and they figured out this was all part of the Wesley's plan, as we see, it got messed up and he didn't know what to do. And he was so lost that Wesley was just like, I don't even know how to guide them at this point because I don't even know where we're at. Now, of course, Dal and Iltheron and everybody had gotten captured. They were able to send Wesley and Iltheron back on Voyager, but then the rest of them had stayed on Solum. And then, of course, that's when Wesley had collapsed. And it was just because his brain was drained of all of his traveler powers to force him to make the whole, wormhole and the weapons and everything that he needed to do. It was kind of traumatizing, though, to see Wesley kind of go through all that. But those were always the things that I liked the most because I've said this before. I like seeing very strong characters kind of go through a really tough time because you just get to see just how strong they are, how they get out of it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, that's where character development comes from too, right? It comes from
yes, yeah,
the bad as well as the good, not just
right.
Everything being unicorns and rainbows.
But I mean, and that's why season 3 of Picard was so good because we saw Beverly just broken.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So seeing her broken and trying to make the right decisions, even though she was doubting herself, she was like, she had no more F's to give at this point. So that's where, it made it more interesting to see where she was headed at this point. So.
And, just as you're saying that too, because I know you and I have talked about this many times, but just that scene in Picard where they're finally reunited right on the bridge and there's all that eye acting that they do that you love so much in that scene. And, in that moment, you can tell, the audience knows immediately, yes, that's your kid. But you can also see the look on her face is very much like, I've been carrying this burden alone and I need you to carry it with me now. Right. Like they do. You can see how worn out she is. And, I love, we'll get there. We'll get there. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I love that we at least get to hear little Jack in this episode, and it kind of ties some things together, right?
So, yeah. So let's continue, shall we? So we can get to that point. So after this, they kind of did a little soap opera thing. So we see the ending of Wesley and Iltheron landing on Voyager, and he collapses. And then in the next episode, you see a little bit with Janeway and Chakotay having a little moment. They're getting called on the bridge, and then that's when they see Iltheron and Wesley, and he collapses. And I call that a soap opera thing because they typically will do that. You'll see the ending of a soap opera episode, and it will begin it the same way. So that just kind of reminded me of that. But the next episode was Touch of Grey.
His neural pathways have been considerably damaged by Essensia's mind extractions. This level of neurolytic shock would have taken down anyone else. You being you, Mr. Crusher, you'll survive. This cortical stimulator should rebuild your neuropeptides. As for your unique abilities, I'm afraid they won't be returning anytime soon. But time will tell.
It always does.
What happened down there? Where is the Protostar crew, and why were you there in the first place?
Wesley allowed himself to be caught, so Essensia could finish her temporal weaponry.
He what?
I nudged events so those kids could use her tech to create a wormhole and send the Protostar back. We couldn't do it without her weapon. It had to happen that way. Now that Essensia's captured them, we're in uncharted territory. For the first time in a while, I'm in the dark like everyone else.
Oh my God. Okay, real quick. I just have to say, you're sitting there and it's all doom and gloom conversation and Janeway storms in demanding answers. It's like, ma'am, read the room.
Hey, she's concerned. Okay. She's like, look, I trusted you, Wesley, with my crew. Now all of a sudden you just showed up on my bridge without them. What the heck, man? So what was funny though is that because Wesley has been alone for so long, right? He's just been with the travelers. This is the first time he's being yelled at by a mom.
That's true. That's very true.
He needs that mom, he got in trouble.
he was a stupid teen and took Dad's car and crashed into a tree, and now she's getting shit for
He's
it.
like,
So
I nudged events, and she's like, huh? What were you thinking? Like, it was just kind of one of those moments.
Did this scene remind you a bit of, again, amazing how these guys and you know, the folks behind Coda never like but this just reminded me of the scene when older Wesley comes back. Remember, and he collapses on the
300-year-old Wesley or 50? Okay,
like in the first book where he collapses on
Yeah.
the beach and they get him, and then
Mm-hmm.
this scene just had a lot of those vibes, especially when
Right.
the doctor's talking about how your powers aren't going to return anytime soon, which
Right.
as he's the doctor, you know, that means it's like maybe never.
Maybe
right?
never. I don't know. Yeah, that's his gentler way of saying it.
Yeah, I don't know. Just scene just had some of those vibes there, and I was again worried where things were going to be going because.
I mean, it has that vibe throughout, because even with the other books, what, you know, so I was asking you, 300-year-old Wesley or 50-year-old Wesley, because it was very, very future Wesley that died, that was on the beach, and then younger Wesley, which is the 50-year-old, which would sort of be this one. I think he's supposed to be like late 30s, early 40s in this. But what was funny though, it was just he has no idea what's going on. He doesn't even know what's going to happen, just like how it was in the book. He had no idea what was going to happen, because he's like, I don't know what my future self was trying to tell me, so we're going to have to just play it by ear. So it had that vibe, you know, all over the place. I did like with Wesley, because you're starting to see his growth in the sense that he was with the Travelers so long, and now he has to work as a team, right? He has to work without his powers. He was so used to them just being like, thought, I'm good, I'm to go. Now he has to think out of the box and just try to figure out the situation with other people with him. So, you know, they created the team. They're like, let's go down there. We're going to try and figure it out. And it was nice to see that kind of character growth for Wesley, kind of having to step back into his old shoes.
Yeah, and Janeway even reminds him of this, right? That he used to be a Starfleet officer, so start thinking like one again, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
she
just
said that later on when they were down on the surface,
right? And some of the greatest scenes with Wesley were him, Data, and Geordi, you know, around the was it the pool table in engineering, solving those problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Together, right? So it was nice to see him slide into that again a little bit, instead of just timey-wimey magic stuff.
Exactly. And you know, we've even seen that with Doctor Who, where the doctor had to make difficult decisions and figure out stuff without having the TARDIS, right? It had that feel where he had to just go back to his old self. He still had that in him. He wasn't just a traveler. He had those special abilities all along. And of course, when they decided to go down, Ilderon decides to stay. They're going down. I mentioned this before when I did my quick reaction review bonus episode, where she was like, I had the chance to speak to your mother. And he's like, how is she? And she's like, you should ask her yourself. And I was like, Janeway is all of us in that moment, because he just does this guilty look like I just got in trouble. And her face was like she looked mad. She's all like, you better call your mom. So, and then of course he's flying, and he says he hasn't done it in a while. And of course he has to go down, and they split off, because then the doctor has to become Janeway. So then they can cause a distraction, because the kids are now stuck with a loom that got captured. And that was sad to me. I'm not going to lie, because the loom was scared. It was like a caged animal. And I was like, set it free.
Yeah, it was like being made to do Essensia's bidding, and didn't really understand why.
Or and even Zero had said, I can sense it, and it's afraid. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. And
well, that makes it
destroy him, but still it's sad.
I can't remember. Are they more like animals? They weren't like sentient beings.
I mean, honestly, if you kind of think they're hunters to feed, right? They're just they're doing what comes naturally.
again, more like animals, but then it's like you
Mhm.
said, like an animal in a cage or being held captive in a zoo or something, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know. I was happy that it did escape. I was like,
Hmm.
go Loom. Just don't eat people. But yeah, it was it was just one of those things where I was just like, okay, this is really sad because they even felt bad because they're like, maybe we should try and let it like take off. But we did have some good moments. I mean, I think the doctor pretending to be Janeway and then that dramatic death of hers was very doctor, right? I mean, it was doing
Well,
very well at first because I thought it was the admiral, and then all of a sudden,
yeah,
when pretending death, I was like, oh, I
yeah. Well, you're like you don't. Well, I mean, she's name dropped in Picard, so you know still around,
still
but
around. Yes,
yeah, you don't know what. Again, it's Trek. What events could happen between now and then to bring her back, but
exactly.
and then he starts talking after he's supposed to be dead, right?
Right, right. And but this is where Essentia, she's just staring at her instead of being like, "What the heck?" It took her a second before she realized what was going on. And like I said, she's so blinded by her anger and her hate for whatever reason that caused this for her to go down that path. She misses this most simplest little things. Because even when the doctor was like, bye-bye, and that was when her guards were like, Solemn is they're not listening to you anymore, right? The people are now
Yeah,
rebelling
this is
against you.
where the Civil War starts kicking off, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
then it's
because Iltheron goes on and is all like, "Do not listen to her," and she's like, "Oh crap, I'm losing my gain here."
well, it's interesting now because they they were trying to prevent contact with the Federation to
Hmm.
stop Civil War, yes, um,
Right.
but she's ignited it by uniting a good chunk of the populace against her
Hmm.
instead,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
in her rage, I'm sure she still sees it as the Federation's fault,
Hmm. Yeah.
as
Of
they do.
course, because as
Hmm.
they do, and this is where you really start to see her downfall because as they all do escape, Wesley and Chakotay had a moment because Chakotay was like, "I'm sorry, I was a little hard on you back at sick bay, but he's like, you did save me, so thank you." But for Wes, he was just like, "This is hard for me because I haven't done this in a while." He's like, "I just have to," he has to learn to have faith instead of just knowing how things are going to play out. So he had to really just kind of change his perception on things. But
Well,
as they all get back on the ship, they're just like, "Okay, let's go. We gotta stop her."
when you're that powerful of a being too, you start to feel like you can rely on just yourself. You don't need to rely on other people because you can do these incredible things, right? So now that
Hmm.
he's kind of brought down to our level or his old school Wesley level, he's got to it's like learning to walk all
Ride
over
a
again,
bike.
right? He's got to
To
yeah
ride a
he's got to
bike.
learn how to do it again and trust others to kind of pull their weight on their own and help them figure things out, right?
Yeah. And I think this is why the clip I'm about to show for the next episode. Now, the episode, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right. Ouroboros? Ouroboros?
I think so.
Okay. Well, we'll just run with it. But
We'll run with it.
we'll just run with that. This clip is where I wanted to show because it's showing him work as a team.
Chakotay was lost in an unstable wormhole on the Protostar's maiden voyage.
Where it was flung randomly through space and time to the Delta Quadrant over Solum.
To a future 52 years from now.
But when the Protostar was sent back through that same wormhole, it crash-landed on Tars Lamora.
In the past, at an unknown date, where Dal and I discovered it however many years later.
Even if we knew that date.
Which we don't.
The wormhole's unpredictability makes closing the time loop a veritable shot in the dark.
Ugh, too many unexpected variables.
There's something we're not seeing. Don't close your minds. Open them.
So this is what's interesting is that how he was trying to say time and space and thought, That is the most important thing. And he was able to use that to his advantage because he had powers. But he had to use thought in a different way to try and open up the horizons of how are we going to get the protostar exactly where it needs to be. Right? So it's kind of circling back to where he was before, where he's all like, open your minds, guys, use your thought so we can get to where we need to go. But in this case, they're using their mind in science, trying to figure out where they possibly think that everything's at. So I thought that was a very nice full circle moment for Wesley. And especially because he also had to work with everybody else that is in science, and they're all working together. So
well, I like too that he's not even just kind of coaching himself through it, but also these younger Starfleet cadet aged kids, right?
Yeah.
And trying to teach them also to, I've got to learn this. Let's learn how to do this together, kind of a attitude, right?
Yeah, and he's passing that knowledge too, because he's been through what they've gone through. He went through Starfleet Academy. He was an acting ensign. He went through all this stuff on the Enterprise. So he's passing on all that stuff that he learned. Just like Janeway said in the previous episode, I need you to be Starfleet Wes. And she's like, and I heard you were a damn good one, right? So it's like, I really need that moment for that. This is where I think you said it last week when I showed you the photo that I picked. This is the episode where they're all just standing there, all looking like, ready to go. And the Avengers assemble. This is the moment. And so this is where they're like, all right, Protostar crew, let's go. We're going to do this, because after they do, they have to get together, and they do split off because there's a handful right now with the Sensia. It was like Jacob, Dal, and Gwyn, and Murph. And then here's Zero, Majel, and Rock with Wesley. And then, of course, Chakotay is with Janeway. So they're all doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? They're all doing their strengths. The thing with the Sensia is, and they got excited that like, yay, the wormhole has been opened. But then just trying to figure out how to send it out and how to figure it out is where they were stumped. But I think, when it comes down to all of this, they just, as much as Wesley was saying you all have to stick together, they're sticking together in a different way too, that I'm not sure Wesley put together, right? Because they were all using their strengths and different, even though they were all separated, it was all connecting the dots. They all had to be there in those certain moments. So I think
it was making all the pieces kind of fall into place.
Exactly. Exactly. Now I did want to mention, so we see the portal weapon here. And I don't think I clocked it before that this was the same portal weapon from Picard season 3. I should have. But this is where... Thank you, York, for putting it out, because I all the credit. Because I was like, oh, okay. I was like, duh. So she created the portal weapon that ends up going to the, the Institute, and then the changelings get it.
Gee, okay, yeah.
All coming together. Yeah. So
watching me realize this in real time, folks. That's
this is gonna be my clip of the sneak peek.
I usually catch a lot of stuff like that, and it didn't even. What's funny is I either just before this or just after this did a complete Picard season 3 rewatch, and you would have thought it would have been fresh on my mind, but no, it was funny because that's awesome.
We even thought, we're like, why did they create a portal weapon?
Well, here we are.
So yeah,
not just some cool gimmick to put on the show. There's a story behind it.
There's a story behind it. Now, of course, Hollow Janeway, I want to talk about her for a second. She was very upset. She was kind of copping an attitude with Chakotay as they're on the protostar. And he's like, what is wrong? You've been like, it cracked me up because he's talking to a hologram, but he's just like, you've been at me like this whole time. Like, what did I do?
Lay off. way off.
It's like, but it was sad because she's like, I have to forget all of this in order for this to work. And she's like, and I don't want to, you know? And I was like, oh, yeah, she's going through all this and they're going to have to strip her of her memories. You know, she probably felt more closer to, you know, being as, I don't want to say, like the doctor, right? The more experience the doctor got, the more he was going beyond his programming, and so was she, and they were going to take that away from her, right? They're going to reset her. So I was like,
it's almost like the person that she's become to that point, like if you kind of, you know, reset her back to factory settings, like she kind of ceases to exist, right? Now she's a new person. It's a different person, right? And it's like the same thing with humans, right? Like it's scary to think of somebody getting like complete amnesia and forgetting everything, and they feel like they've just lost who they were completely,
and
right?
They're starting over, you know, and then everything that you go through is going to make you into a different person and not the person that you were before.
Because we're the sum of our experiences, right? So
exactly. So I thought that was interesting. Now, of course, we were going back and forth between Gwen's fight with Essentia and Murph's fight with I keep forgetting General Grievous's name. What's
Dreadnought. It's
Dreadnought.
It's a much cooler name than General Grievous. Come on.
Okay, well, so sorry. I had 20 years to remember that name versus this one. Thank you. But
you just watched this episode yesterday?
I actually watched it today, but I don't think they said his name. So that's why.
No, because we all know.
I didn't get to finish. I didn't get to finish.
It's fair.
So they're fighting and things are going on. And of course, Jankum and Dal are trying to get the wormhole to open. And we think Murph dies. Again, they pull a fast one on us. He falls down. I love Xena. Xena's one of my favorite shows. And there is an episode where Gabrielle falls over a pit and goes into like lava or some fire thing. And Xena is watching this, right? So she's seeing Gabrielle fall down with Hope. And you think Gabrielle dies. This was that same moment. You see Murph going down with Dreadnought and you see Jacob looking down like, no. And I was like, they better not hurt Murph. But no, they didn't hurt Murph. Murph was fine. Murph was good.
Virtually indestructible.
But you never know. I mean, so are jellyfish, but the moment they're out of the water, they're gone. Like, you never know.
I think he's a little more resilient than jellyfish, though.
Well, they're squishy and, you know.
Does he have a brain? Because jellyfish don't.
I think Murph is definitely a lot smarter than jellyfish. I'm just going to say.
Right. Yeah.
Now with Gwen's fight, though, I mean, that was interesting because Essentia was using her heirloom and Gwen was weak because she was feeling she was getting pulled apart in time. So you kind of just see Essentia just like, I want all this power and you're not going to take it away from me. Right. But she didn't understand the power. She didn't understand just how this was going to hurt everybody around her. She lost all thought of how this was going to go down.
She had no end game. She had no idea what she was doing the entire.
No, she just wanted control. That was just it. She just
control things and kill everyone. That's
exactly. So when she sees everyone go against her because they do have powers, right? And they were all there for Gwen, where they're what was the saying that they said? Like, I can't remember what they said, but they all helped Gwen fight against Essentia. To the point that Essentia's power basically fizzled out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it was just interesting how that went down, especially because, and I'm wondering if the fact that her younger self going against her might have also played a part of her fizzling out because it's taken away what she already had. Does that make sense?
No, but that's okay.
Is this too timey-wimey for you? I'm sorry.
It's it's a lot. But no,
because I mean, there's two
get it.
different Essenzias there, so it's just I'm wondering if that played a part where her younger self going against her is what just kind of just changed her future self, right? So,
well, this is
you know,
kind of that moment that we were mentioning earlier was,
yeah.
I said, wouldn't her decision to not become that person change things? And I think we've hit that point now, right?
Yeah, I think so. Now, of course,
the catalyst, I guess.
The catalyst of it. Of course, this is where, and I'm just going to kind of jump right into this part 2 because it just kind of continues, right? So she loses her power and everything. Well, the loom starts to show up, and that's where she clicks and goes, "What have I done?" Right? That was the moment where she's like, "Oh crap! I actually just made it worse than what I was fighting against." So she instantly regrets it, and everyone just starts jumping into action, trying to, you know, because this loom was like, "Oh, you guys are made a much bigger hole than you realize, and we're about to, we need to feed, we need to eat." They were definitely hungry. And so, you know, Wesley was freaked out. He was like, "It's too soon. They weren't supposed to be here." But I think because they had split off, it changed the trajectory of where they were going. So that's why they came sooner than expected. So that's where Wesley had to think on his feet and try to figure it out. And everybody did. So there was just a lot going on at this point. I was actually afraid Eltheron was going to die, to be honest.
Yeah. It was starting to get very breakneck at this point because you're bouncing back and forth between all the events that are happening. And, you know, I think we're on the final episode now.
Yes, this is the final one.
Yeah. So, you know, trying to wrap up the entire season in this, and then of course lay the groundwork for hopefully more. I did like how Wesley, you know, because they had decided, okay, how are we going to get the protostar through this mess? It needs to be, you know, someone has to drive it, basically. And so they were trying to figure out, so Chakotay and all them were going to stay on the protostar. Voyager would beam them out last minute. Cool. I remember when, I think it was Chakotay that said it to Wesley, and he's like, "You don't have to stay." And he's all like, "No, I put them on this path. I need to stay here." Right? He was willing to even sacrifice himself because he didn't know what was going to happen to make sure that they were taken care of. And then, of course, I did like his conversation with Dal, where Dal was all like, "You were right. We were all supposed to be together so we can get to this moment." And he's like, "Oh, Dal, you're so funny." He's like, "I'm not talking about now." Yeah.
He was just all like,
we ain't there yet, brother.
We're not there yet. And Dal's like, "Huh?" I thought that was great. Now, of course, Voyager was fighting against the loom, trying to get through so then Protostar can make their way through. And they lose navigation. And who do they go to? Jillian. So Jillian the whale saves the day. I absolutely adore that Bonnie not only, you know, playing the ship's computer, but you know, she got to be the translator of the whale. So yeah, that was definitely a fun little moment. But it was very quick. Like this first 10 minutes, if that, maybe less than 10 minutes, it was like boom, 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 boom. Like, we got to get this done because they had to continue for how the rest of the show is going to be. So, of course, they decided to do a copy of Hollow Janeway so then they could, you know, get the protostar to go. They ended up doing it. And I have a couple clips. I did some clips a little differently this time because I felt this was important to showcase. And I loved it. I think it was great because the moment they were able to get through the loom and sent the protostar on its way, they gave us this.
To keep history intact, the ship must be exactly as it was when they found it on Tars Lamora. I am Hologram Janeway. Welcome aboard.
You're with us now.
You made your choice, Father. Now I've made mine.
I imagine you have questions, but after seeing everything you've accomplished, I have full confidence you'll find your way. Because together, your potential is infinite. Now, go boldly.
We can share our gifts with the cosmos if we embrace the truth that we are not alone in the universe.
Whenever you're feeling lost, it's best to find where you're needed most.
I'm Wesley Crusher, and I've been waiting for you.
Perhaps such things are only impossible until they are not.
Boldness isn't only for the young. And when Starfleet is united, we can always overcome. On my mark. Ready? Go fast.
I don't know about you, but I got emotional when I saw that recap. Right? I'm a bidder.
I was getting emotional again just watching it. It was so well done.
I was getting emotional watching it when I was recapping earlier, and then doing my copy here and clipping it. I was all, I'm hanging in there.
You just you guys have been through some stuff together. Like, holy,
just to get
right?
to this moment,
right?
This was the moment they went through all that. And like I said, I'm a vidder. I love putting videos together. I love creating stories that way. And that's it. That's top notch recap, clipping, all of it right there. And I absolutely adored it. And it was just really nice because then even after that, they show back to the first episode where Rock and Dal find it. She sees the comm badge, presses it, the whole, like it's all starting all over again. I was so excited about that. I was like, that was so well done.
That comm badge piece was such a nice touch too. Like,
what?
I totally forgot about it until when Dal was like, "Oh wait, just one more thing," and then he takes it, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, right," because they found that right away.
Because he remembered.
And then you see the clip of it, and I'm like, "Holy cow!" That was it was really well done.
They did it so well.
They tied everything up in a little bow there, and I think the reason that it also felt emotional, and I hate to say it, and I don't want it to be true, but it's almost like that little montage was done with series finale feel in mind, and
right, just in case,
usually it's finales, like All Good Things kind of made you that emotional when you see, especially at the end where they're all around the poker table, right, for the first time with Picard, and that just seeing all that, and I love that quick rewind right at the end of it. Right, was so well done. So it was a great scene. Yeah,
it was really good. And then of course, they start to show that there's now peace on Solum. Janeway decides to retire. The kids are going to Starfleet Academy. Like everything is set in motion. And this is why I waited, because guys, it is the reunion we've all been waiting for. And I was so excited, and I had to use the best for last.
Hi, Mom.
Wesley.
I'm sorry. I know it's been a while. I thought...
Where are you?
I'm here, Mom. I'm here. The universe always needs me. And I don't know how long I can stay in this reality.
Before you disappear again, I want you to meet someone. Your brother.
Stick a fork in me, I'm done. Thank you. Have a nice night.
That's the show, everyone.
I have died. I was so excited. I was like, yes, This is exactly what we wanted to see. We wanted to know, did he ever see Jack? We wanted to know, did she ever see him prior to season 3 of Picard? Which is why I was saying season 3 of Picard's now extra sad, because I think that was the last time she saw him. I have a little question. We heard Jack giggling, right? He clearly he's having some fun. He's playing with some toys. You think he's talking to the Borg? Because here's the thing. In season 3, she had said when he was so little, he couldn't sleep, right? Because he had nightmares. And then she was telling Picard that he had imaginary friends. And so I was thinking that he was probably talking to his imaginary friends, which was probably the Borg at that very time. Oh my
gosh. You made it such a nice moment, almost kind of creepy.
A little bit.
Yeah. Actually, I won't lie. I kind of like that headcanon there. I love it. Actually,
I'm running with it.
It's the Borg are creepy, little. Right? And they should be, and that makes it. That's a whole new level of ick. I love it. Love it.
You're welcome.
Not for Jack, but I love it.
Not for Jack, but I mean, because she was saying how little he was, he had imaginary friends, and all this stuff. And so all you hear is him giggling, playing. We don't know what he was playing with. And typically when you're a kid with imaginary friends and you're with your toys, that's what you're doing. You're talking to yourself, right? You're playing with yourself. So yeah, it kind of hit me in that direction. But I did want to show a clip of my interview with Aaron, because he does specifically talk about that moment where Wesley sees Jack for the first time.
And then when Jack came into the picture, we were like, well, we have to have Jack there because that if what's it reminded us of just sort of like if you have a relative who's like in the military or something and then comes home and meet a young one for the first time. It felt very, very poetic to us. From a production standpoint, we didn't have the money to build a Jack model as a toddler. But we were like, actually, I think it would be even more beautiful if you stay on Wesley's face and
the excitement.
As he sees what he's been missing and meets Jack for the first time. And you can really hear the emotion in Gates and Will's voices as they act out the scene that clearly they have been thinking about, for a while, It was a beautiful scene and beautifully acted and directed.
Aaron gets it, man. That guy, he understands it. He's very, I love that both the animated Trek shows that we got, this and Lower Decks, or this and Lower Decks by Mike McMahon. Both shows are done by somebody that gets it. They understand the franchise and they love it with their whole heart, right? So you can see that in him, and his point about the emotion. Again, that was another scene where you could hear it with Wesley. That I'm here, Mom. Like just the way he says it, like you can almost hear that he's choking up. He's about to cry, right? Like it's so good, so
gasps,
well done. But
like Gates gasps, in that part. I was like, man, this is so good.
And I like that he said that they kind of played it out like the scene of those videos of people coming home from the military or whatever that you see all the time and surprising them, and that was really good. But I do think that the decision to keep the camera on Wesley's face when he sees Jack for the first time was the right decision, because we've seen Jack, we know what he looks like. We don't need to see him as a toddler. Toddlers all kind of look the same. Right. So
I would have liked to, but I get it.
It's all about the monies.
I know.
But emotionally the impact is there more by seeing that look on Wesley's face, and this is what I'm missing. And he touches on that a bit in Coda as well, right? With not being around to see Renee grow up as well, right? So it was really well done.
I just really enjoyed the whole arc of this all, because then it was, again, we were talking about how Wesley had to go back to his old roots, and so he goes back to his mom where it like all began, right? And I don't know. I was so stoked. I know a lot of people were very excited about all this. And of course, we're thinking everything's all hunky dory. You know, the kids are at Starfleet Academy, everything's going good. But unfortunately, red alert, breaking news. And of course, this is where we had to point out because this was the same background that we saw on season 1 of Picard. And of course, you're the one that pointed out it's First Contact Day.
Yeah, well, that
I
was
didn't notice it the
before.
first
Yes,
time.
because that banner was in the background before the news
Mhm.
alert was up.
Yep.
And I remember I took a quick picture of it and I sent it to you and I was like, oh my God, Jesse, it's First
I
Contact
didn't
Day.
even yeah. And I was
Like,
like, what?
Is
I was
the Mars attack about to happen? And then it did. And I
And it
thought
did.
that it was they did such a good job of catching, this show up to the beginning of
Up to this
Picard.
point.
Yeah,
And the
and then
thing was
knowing that if we
too
get a season 3, it would be concurrent with the
with that.
events of
Yeah.
the
Aftermath.
the withdrawal. Yeah, the withdrawal of
Yeah.
the Federation from the Romulan evacuation, right?
Situation, Picard retiring, everything falling apart. And the thing is that I had a feeling they were going to do about the Mars attack, but I did not know they were going to do it on First Contact Day. I did not notice it. It was you that broke the news to me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I started freaking out. I was like, "They got to stop having these federal holiday celebrations because the Borg attacked on
Frontier Day. Yeah.
Frontier Day on Picard." And so, yeah, it was absolutely insane. But I also wanted to showcase because you wanted to show her uniform, which of course was the same one that we saw with Picard. So
Yes. Janeway looked fantastic in that uniform.
She looked really, really great.
They did a great job animating that.
Yeah.
I do like those uniforms. I really liked the $23.99 Picard uniforms. That's the ones after these ones, right? These ones I liked, but they never kind of grew on me just because they were just in the flashback. But I think since season 1 has aired, I've come to like these uniforms more and more as time goes on. And again, I think they look fantastic animated.
I think it just all kind of came together, especially with what we're seeing, because Picard was also pissed off because of the fact that he had to withdraw from the evacuation. I did also want to show this real fast because this was an award that Beverly had gotten. I think it was an Allegiance where they had mentioned that they had saved Core Corelli 5 from like a plague or something. So clearly she was leading that medical team that saved it. So she got this honorary citizen award. And here it is. She's in London. She's taking care of Jack. She's raising him. She's away from Starfleet, but she's not really like hiding too much because they could still kind of find her. It's in this nice little frame. She has a really nice apartment. But then when you go back to where she's at, it's not in a frame. It's on a stand. It's in this dingy, I love the Helios, but she was a beaten up little ship. It was not the nice, style of living that she was.
Well, even the tablet is like damaged at the top, and
it looks damaged. Yeah, more so than on here. Yeah.
Can I just say real quick? Like I've always thought this, but like looking at the scene here with the pad and stuff, the show is animated so beautifully. Like it looks so good.
Yeah.
Like it looks that shot there looks fantastic.
Right.
Sorry, just nerd me just.
No,
if I can't nerd out on a nerd podcast,
then I'm not doing my job. I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to showcase it. Yeah, I wanted to showcase that because I just thought that was done very, very well. Because you're kind of seeing, a lot did happen in 20 years, right? So, and you're wondering what happened. But no, this is where, Janeway comes back. They decide to get the Prodigy crew kids together and put them on their own ship against Starfleet, I guess you could say, under the radar. But, of course, Dal says, I'm going to be your number one. Gwen's going to be the captain. And they're all, now cadets, or not cadets. They're all now ensigns. They all had a pip. So, yeah, this was a good setup. Like you said, that recap was kind of like in case if this is a series finale, because they're not really sure. But they do set it up nicely just in case that, they could still tell more stories, which is what we want.
Now, did they know they weren't renewed for a third season when they were finishing up this season?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they had already known that, they were done with season 2 and everything. And then they got the news about Paramount dropping them. So they weren't sure how they were going to show season 2. So season 3 really hasn't been, it's still kind of like up in the air. I think too, though, with that recap that they did, it was also a good tie away, because like season 1 and season 2, that story's over.
Yeah.
So now they can go on to the next story, right? So that was kind of their also goodbye to that story and that pretty little bow, and then moving on to the next story that they want to do.
Which I kind of like, because as great of a story as it was, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, but I'm kind of sick of Solemn. I'm ready to move on to something else, right? Like, not sick, but I feel it's definitely run its course.
That story's done.
Yeah. Let's move on. I don't think there's much more to. And again, it's not that you wouldn't want check in now and then to see, because one of the lead characters on the show would, has ties to Solemn. So, you want Gwen checking in with younger Essentia and seeing how things are going, and her dad obviously too, right? So. Right. And we can get the little updates every few episodes through that way, instead of it kind of just being so focused on Solemn.
Yeah, exactly. Because these characters have now grown with everything that they've gone through, with not only Solemn, but the time travel and everything, and even Janeway and Chakotay and everything he went through. So, and now they have to now go through this with the Mars attacks and the Federation being stretched so thin. But let's go ahead and get into the rating.
By Tricode.
It was a landslide. 81% said that they just loved the final 2 episodes. A couple people voted for Ascension Part 2, Brink and Touch of Grey, but no, everyone was like, nope, final 2 episodes. And that was just really like the big ending, and that's why it was so good and so done well. And then it was also tying in with Picard that it was just so much fun. I could watch it over and over again. I could watch that scene with Beverly and Wesley over and over again. But they did definitely just got everything in place.
There's always that big discussion after a season of Trek ends. Where did the season finale stack up versus other season finales? And I think this one is a little higher on the list than quite a few other ones. So
exactly,
I think this is certainly a top tier season finale. It was so well done. It's emotional. It does a good job of wrapping everything up, and then also teasing what could come, right? And then
what's to come.
Not just wrapping up the Prodigy season 1-2 story of the whole Solemn situation, but just that tying it right into season 1 of Picard was perfect. I think it was really well done.
Yeah, but I think this season did Trek very well. It's definitely up there with season 3 of Picard. I thoroughly enjoy it. I could binge it all the time. I think they ended it very, very well.
Aaron and the team, they understood the assignment.
They understood the assignment, and they outdid themselves, I think. Mm-hmm. I think they were like, oh, we're here. And actually they were like, they went up here. And just by our reaction, even I think Aaron was just like, yeah, we were gearing to, just for the Wesley and Beverly of it all. He was like, we were gearing towards the Crusher fans. And he's like, I'm glad we made you happy. We're like, we're beyond happy. Like, like you made our life. Like, it's just, this is what we were asking for. This is what we wanted. And it was going to be in the works. We just didn't know it. So, but yeah, I think this was done very, very well.
Definitely.
So, do you have anything to add at the end of all this?
I was just gonna say it's probably, I would say that, you know, of the seasons of Trek that have come out since Trek's return in 2017, I think this one's pretty up there. The whole season, I think, is top tier, right up there with, I think, season 3 of Picard is
Because
at
it
the
wasn't
top
just
as well.
Picard that they tied in. It was like DS9, TNG, Voyager.
Yep.
They were tying in so many different shows. I mean, they even mentioned Discovery when Wesley was talking about the timeline.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like
and the
they were
mycelial
doing
network.
Cerritos, all of it. They literally brought in every show that was created in Trek, and even the movies. We got the whales. Like, you know, it was just, and it wasn't shoehorned. It was in for a reason.
And they were all little subtle references, and not, it wasn't fan service, like in your face kind of.
No, not just
like,
nostalgia. It was
right.
for a reason. This is my only redhead alert is where you can find me. It's, of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods for all the audio versions of these YouTube videos. You can buy merch at TeePublic. You can buy me a coffee, and you can get all this information at crushercombo.com. I would love if you guys would just go ahead and subscribe, like, you know, hit me with a review. There's actually a button or like a link in all of the audio versions that says communications open, and you could actually send a text message to me. They call it fan mail in Buzzsprout. And so you could just be like, hey, you suck, or you're awesome, or whatever you want to say. But I won't know your phone number, so it's fine. But I thought that was kind of cool that instead of just like a review, it would be like a quick little message.
I'll know it, and I'll find them.
Go hunt them down. No, I mean, like I said, it's been lots of fun. This has been really great. We're wrapping up season 2. I'm gonna kind of take a little bit of a break in September. I'm not gonna be doing any lives. I do have one episode in the works right now that I'm gonna be doing with Patrick from It's Got Star Trek. We're gonna talk about a Groundhog Day episodes in sci-fi. So I'm excited about that one. And of course, I'm also going to be guesting on Sci-Fi Remnant. And but yeah, and I have a bonus episode I might drop in September. But the big one that's going to be happening is going to be October 13th, which is Beverly Crusher Day. And I'm going to be talking about Nana Visitor's new book, But the Women of Trek. So that will be my official live back. And then I'm also going to be recapping the final season of Lower Decks, season 5. When that comes out, and that will finish up Crusher Convo's season 2. So just thought I'd take a little bit of a break before that. But yeah, Happy Bookworm just came in and just said, dang, I missed it. I'm so sorry. Glad to at least see you at the very end of this. You could definitely rewatch this, but this was loads of fun. I had fun, Jay. Did you enjoy recapping season 2?
Absolutely. Anytime you want me to do something like this again, all for it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Happy Bookworm, for joining at the very tail end of this. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We had lots of laughs and had lots to say about this. And thank you, Aaron and Kevin and Dan and all the creators. You guys created a great season. And thank you, Will Wheaton, for returning as Wesley Crusher. We are so excited to have you back, and we hope to see more. And of course, Gates being back, of course, as Beverly, is always a treat. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and end this, and we're going to just go ahead and say live long and prosper. Bye, guys.
Crusher out.